thanks to the support as a channel member, Chris Graves. Oh, folks, life in the Premier League has started better than we possibly could have imagined. We even won 4 games in a row. 2 of them were in the EFL Cup against lower league teams, but don't let that spoil my fun. We are not in the relegation zone, and that's the important thing. Today, we're going to play one good team and one rubbish team to give you a little bit of a flavour of how it goes against both of those. Hello and welcome to part 126 of Wembley to Wembley. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we've got Premier League games for you, away against Chelsea and at home against Norwich. And since you were last with me, this is what has gone on. So we obviously had the narrow defeat and draw in the last episode. We followed that up with a 3-0 win over Burnley, and Logan Carstairs announced himself on the Premier League at the age of 32, having never played in the Premier League before. His previous exposure to England realistically was in League 2 for Crawley. He then dropped down to the Scottish Premiership from League 2 and spent his career there, and unbelievably at 32 has stepped into the Premier League and done 6 goals in 6 games, and it all started against Burnley. A hat-trick against them. He didn't play against Walsall. He got 2 more against Bristol City. That was back-to-back Premier League wins. We then beat Brighton in the EFL Cup before drawing again at home against Wolves, and then finally, and drew against Villa as well before finally losing to Newcastle. So we've only actually lost 1 game since the last episode. Because we were on 3 without a win, though, we did on this extraordinarily long international break, basically a month with no football, and we did play against some local teams just to keep our fitness levels up. There's no other motivation behind playing those games, just to keep our fitness level up. Interestingly, the club atmosphere is still quite good, which is, it's a coincidence as far as I'm concerned, and this is what the Premier League table looks like. I think since the last episode, Middlesbrough have had a points deduction. Remember last season when Middlesbrough won the league? And then remember this summer when they spent £55 million while we spent 8? Well, they went into administration. So, yeah, they deserve a 9-point deduction. They deserve 3 relegations and a 30-point deduction as far as I'm concerned. They're literally cheating. They knew they were on the verge of administration, still spent nearly 6 times what we spent. We're here living within our means. They deserve everything they've got. We're 11th in the league, which we'd obviously bite your arm off for that at the end of the season. And Logan Carstairs, top scorer in the Premier League. What a time to be alive. Chelsea are up in 4th. We're playing them. Norwich are down in 19th. We're also playing them. I would expect us to lose to Chelsea and beat Norwich if this season continues in the vein that it is currently in. So this is the team for the Chelsea game. It's Slocum in goal, a back four of Livingston, Martin, Fanimo and Castro, Dixon and Kerslake in midfield. Christodoulou, as ever, is suspended. The boy loves a suspension. I think he's been booked every game he's played this season, already on 5 yellow cards. Last season, he got 18 yellow cards and 1 red. He spends a lot of time suspended. So Kerslake's going to partner Dixon in midfield today. And then it's Duffy, Lowry, we haven't decided how we say this guy's name. And Glennie out wide with Carstairs, of course, up front, because he's the only guy who's really scoring goals for us. So we kind of need him to score goals for us today as well. Although that being said, as I've mentioned many times before, an away game against a top 4 team like Chelsea is not somewhere we're budgeting to get any points this season. So it's not essential that we actually put in a performance today at all. It'd be nice to not get thumped, keep the good morale going. But really, all the focus from our end is on that Norwich game. If we can get 3 points against Norwich, it doesn't really matter what happens against Chelsea. And we'll end the episode still ahead of the Kev ratio, which is the goal for the season. If we finish ahead of the Kev ratio, we don't get relegated. And if we don't get relegated, that gives us the platform to build on for the rest of the save. It means another year of Premier League money. It means we're quite likely to get the new stadium at some point soon because we're filling this one constantly now. So it's all moves in the right direction. What is not a move in the right direction is Deegan Slocum has stubbed his finger. How much of an issue is a stubbed finger for a goalkeeper? My assistant manager, of course, the great Tom Best, thinks that he should be all right to continue. So we'll leave him on for now. We have got Hollywood on the bench, who could come on if need be. This has been an absolute nothing game so far. He says, just as Chelsea have a corner, just before half-time, we're testing the stubbed finger now and Livingston heads it clear. I would like the half-time whistle. We've got 2.5 minutes of added time still to play, though, and Chelsea have decided they're going to spend that added time camped out on the edge of our area. They've got a guy with a mohawk as well, which is always upsetting to me. I like to be the guy who has the mohawks. Oh, that's got to be offside. Referee, surely he's offside there, isn't he? I don't think he's offside, is he? Put your flag up, you tool. First attack of the game, realistically. And they've Premier Leagued us. That's upsetting. Let's have a look at it from the other angle. I mean, it still looked a bit offside to me. Maybe he's behind him. Is he behind the ball? Maybe. Quite upset about it either way. That being said, we're absolutely fine with a 1-0 defeat in this game. It's the kind of match where, yeah, we get the amount of points we were supposed to get, but we don't get an absolute battering. We don't come out of it morale through the floor. The worst thing to do in a game like this is to come here and lose 5-0 and then be all down and sad going into the Norwich game. If we can make sure that we're still reasonably chirpy and happy going into Norwich, then our survival in the Premier League is not going to be decided based on away games against the likes of Chelsea. Right, Carstairs hasn't turned up today, so Murray's going to come on for him. Lowry's going to come off as well. We'll bring Dabo on for him, and Glennie can also come off, and McCaffrey can come off in. We're just making changes based on who's not playing very well. Fitness is fine. We've not played for a month, so fitness is absolutely fine. I guess we should probably go attacking. It goes against everything I've just said, because we'll be quite happy to just maintain the 1-0 defeat. That being said, if we could go and nick an equaliser, we'd obviously like to nick an equaliser. I can't use my mouth. Right, Nicolao's going to come on behind Murray. Dixon, we don't have another midfielder to come on, so Fanimo can go forward, and then we can bring Kennedy on at the back. Kennedy's coming on at the back, and can we grab an equaliser from somewhere? Do we go all out attacking? You can bet your buttocks we go all out attacking. Forget this playing for a 1-0 defeat. That gets us nowhere. Send Slocum forward, stubbed finger and all. We've had one shot in the entire match and only 34% possession. This very much screams Chelsea didn't even get out of second gear and did literally the minimum they needed to pick up the 3 points and go back to the top of the league. Is Mourinho their manager again? That was the most boring game I've ever played. But it doesn't matter if we go and beat Norwich, which we now need to go and do. Okay, I wasn't expecting that to just drop on me midway through an episode in October. That's a bit random. Scott has come through. I'm very pleased to announce that plans are afoot for the club to build a new stadium. It's anticipated that the plans will be finalised by June 2044 and a capacity of around 24,000 is expected. Now, bear in mind, boys and girls, it's 2042 now. The plans won't be finalised for 2 years. That doesn't mean we move in 2 years. That means in 2 years, we officially announce the stadium. So the goal now is to finish as high as possible for the next 2 years so that 24,000 gets extended even further. I would expect 2 or 3 years to build it once the plans are finalised. So we're probably looking at 5 years before we return to Wembley. So we now have an end goal in mind for the save. We need to get to the new stadium before FM25 comes out. And in the meantime, if we could win a trophy before we get there, that would be super duper with bells on. But I would love to be able to play a season in the new stadium. We're going to be cutting it fine. We might be really racing through some seasons after this one. We're not going to rush our first season in the Premier League, but expect 2 or 3 episodes per season from then on as we try and rush to get into the new stadium before FM25 is with us. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. The new stadium is coming. Right, after all that excitement, a couple of changes for the Norwich game. Christodoulou is fit to come back in again, so he's going to partner Dixon in midfield, which allows Kerslake to push back forward into the attacking midfield role, and Dabo comes in on the left-hand side because Adam Duffy has picked up an injury. He's got a groin strain and is going to be out for a week or so, but it is not a million miles away from a full-strength team. It actually puts into context how well we just did against Chelsea, that we did it without Christodoulou, who's comfortably our best player, and, I mean, just keeps everything ticking over in midfield. He is the midfield and the defence, and some of the attack as well, so to come away with such a narrow defeat without him is impressive, but I do want to keep reminding everybody, take all these narrow defeats against the big clubs with a pinch of salt. We talked about it in the last episode as well. because these big clubs are very much putting their reserves out against us. Our reputation is absolutely rock bottom. Nobody's taking us seriously. Christodoulou's got another yellow card already. Nobody's taking us seriously. So everyone's putting out the reserves against us. So that's why the results are a little bit better than you would necessarily expect them to be. It's also why second season syndrome is very much a thing in Football Manager, even more so than in real life, because if we do survive a season in the Premier League, our reputation gets that boost to the point where clubs take us a little bit more seriously second season. So the matches against the likes of Chelsea and Manchester City, where they rotate at the moment, they won't be rotating next year. And we could find ourselves struggling next year even more than we are this year if we don't get our transfers right. Castro, it was definitely a transfer that we got right. Probably the pick of the summer signings. Carstairs is listening to that. He's the what of the what now? Premier League top scorer. What are you saying? But Castro is going to make us some money one day, or be a guy who stays here for the rest of the save. Carstairs is very much a one-season wonder who, let's face it, we all know if they give me the money to do it, I'm going to be trying to replace him in January because he's 32, and I think we can probably do better. I think we can probably do better against Norwich as well. It's still 0-0 as we go into the second half. We're going to be getting some very short episodes in the Premier League with these low-scoring games. I think yesterday's episode was about 10 minutes long because there was just nothing happening in the highlights, and we're at risk of the same happening again today. What a pass from Christodoulou. This is what I'm talking about. He is just the complete player for us, and I think we've won a penalty off the back of his pass. There's question marks over whether it's in the area or not. The referee's going over to the VAR. I think the ball was in the area. Dabo was outside of the area. I don't know what the rule is. I guess it's where contact is made. And I guess if Dabo's out of the area, there's a possibility the contact is out of the area as well. He has awarded a penalty, though. It is a penalty kick for Wembley at a packed Gavin Rose Stadium. Look at it. No wonder we need a new ground. This place is absolutely packed. But it looked like a dive by Dabo. Balls to that. Carstairs steps up and scores. A 7th goal of the season for him. It's Wembley 1, Norwich 0. Now I'm happy for us to just shut up shop. We don't need any more highlights from here. A 1-0 win we absolutely take because it's 3 points that we desperately need. We've got to beat the likes of Norwich. As much as I was saying the results against Chelsea won't dictate our survival, the results against the likes of Norwich absolutely will. We must pick up points in these matches. Livingston has picked up a knock, so Graben is going to come on for him. Glennie has not played well in either of the matches in today's episode, and we'll bring on Nicolau as well to play on that left-hand side. Formerly club record signing, still hasn't really established himself as anything really. He's just like a kind of useful utility attacker squad player who probably will be looking to move on in the summer as we move on beyond him. He's another example, and there's been a few examples of this throughout the save, another example who at the time and in the circumstances of his arrival was probably a really good signing, but the club then progressed too quickly for him to actually demonstrate that. So he ends up looking like a poor signing, even though he's not really. But of course, he came in January last year, got injured immediately, so didn't really play a part in the promotion season. And now we're in the Premier League, and if he'd have scored there as I'm ranting about how rubbish he is, that would have made me look like a right wally. I would have taken it, I'd have celebrated it, but goodness me, I'd have looked like a goose. There's Nicolau again shooting for... I tell you what, I've always rated this guy. We're going to build the team around him. Nicolau creating problems again on the left-hand side. Graben shoots and scores. That's 2-0. That should be job done. Keenan Graben with his first goal for Wembley, and it's all becoming relatively comfortable. This is what I want to see against these teams that we should be better than. I think they're probably rotating as well. There's not a chance that we're better than Norwich. If you look at the wage budgets, we're still paying so little compared to teams like this, even, which is hopefully something that gets resolved over the next few years as we establish ourselves in the Premier League. Christodoulou plays it out to Fanimo. Fanimo finds Castro back to Christodoulou, and now Dixon, who plays it over the top to Nicolau, who brings it down beautifully, finds Kerslake. That should have been 3-0. Nicolau has looked really solid since coming on. Maybe this is his role. We've not really played him out here on the left-hand side. We've only really used him as a striker or an attacking midfielder. Maybe he's been a winger all along. Dixon with the handball. The ball goes in the back of the net, but it's a handball. Do we not get half a goal for that? I think we should get half a goal for trying. Right, Castro's going to come off for Ama, and Mortellero is just about fit enough to get back involved, so we'll bring him on for Kerslake. He can go in there, and fingers crossed we can just see this one out. I'm going to drop a little bit of praise because 2-0 in the Premier League for the likes of Wembley is a good result. It doesn't matter who we're playing. Winning 2-0, and it's been a comfortable 2-0 as well. We've dominated possession. We've dominated the chances. Norwich haven't looked with it at all. Norwich would be bottom of the league if it hadn't been for Middlesbrough cheating. So it's definitely a match we should have won, probably even more convincingly than we have. Dixon trying to add a cherry on top of the cake, but ultimately we don't care. Like Chelsea just did the minimum to beat us 1-0 in the last game just to take the 3 points. 3 points is 3 points. You don't get bonus points for scoring 6 goals. So we take that. That's exactly the outcome we wanted from today's episode. In fact, more so. We came out of it with 3 points. Our morale is probably higher than it was going in, despite taking a defeat. It's the same as it was going in. And we know we've now got a new stadium officially on the horizon. So that, boys and girls, is about as good an episode as we possibly could have hoped for. Norwich have 1 point this season. 2 right, we beat them, and Carstairs is still top scorer in the league. Right, in the interests of seeing us one day playing in the new stadium, I think we get to January from here. I know it's a lot of games. I think we've got to get to January because we want to get in that new stadium before the new game comes out. So I'll see you in January, boys and girls. If you enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. Plus, there's some EAFC stuff coming out at the moment too. Maybe check that out. I'm quite enjoying it. And thank you very much for watching.